have a below-average level of common knowledge of basic things that they would urgently need in their daily life. In life, education is the most important thing for people's life. The future of countries and the world are. Uneducated people have to live under the shadow of other people, but illiterate countries will have to live under the influence of other countries. Today, education remains to be an inaccessible right to millions of children across the globe. Statistics indicate that there are over 72 million children in primary school not attending school, while there are 759 million illiterate adults with lack of knowledge to improve both to their living conditions and their children.
People in the mountains or totally far away from the cities has a big problem when attending schools. The children will have to walk for how many hours just to get to schools? And that's also the reason why children stop attending schools, as it would waste their time and will focus on helping or working together with their parents in the mountains. With low income of the family, they can go forward to study in higher education. Many countries only has a small amount of budget for education, like the lack of facilities. We can only have limited access to learn and broaden our knowledge.
The effects of being lack of education is live life of poverty situation, unemployment, illegal activities, low salary, bad working conditions, poor housing conditions, insufficient health insurance, social isolation and radicalization. This problem or issue can be solvable by this way of government should be implemented. Support for the children from difficult family conditions, improve access to education, better educational infrastructure, more tolerance regarding education, and raise awareness on the importance of education.
Poverty can be regarded as a big cause of a lack of education and for educational inequality. Especially in poor countries, many children suffer from educational inequality, which may in turn lead to several severe issues when these children turn into grown-ups. Many studies have shown that poverty and a lack of education are strongly positively correlated. Since poor families may not be able to send their kids to school, these children may suffer from significant educational inequality. However, not only is poverty a cause for low level of education, it can also be an effect of insufficient education since a bad education will often lead into an increased probability for unemployment and low salaries.
Budget is the main reason why lack of education is existing in our country. There is no fair learning access in the Philippines, lack of resources, poor management of schools, poor learning environment, etc. Especially now, there's COVID-19 where all of us stays at home and study through online. Many of us students can afford to buy laptops or any gadgets that is needed. Most of the students stop studying because they don't have budget, and it's a sad fact.
Sudan has one of the largest numbers of out-of-school children in the Middle East and North Africa region, and estimates suggest more than 3 million children here, aged 5 to 13 years old, are not in school. War, a lack of awareness about the importance of education, and chronic underdevelopment all believed to contribute to the poor schooling of boys and girls in East African countries.
In the Philippines, large number of people is experiencing lack of education because of poverty and unemployment of the parents of a student. Amidst this pandemic, the situation got worsened because some of workplaces have closed and many parents don't have income because of unemployment, which causes a student drop out of school because their parent cannot support anymore that financial needs for their children education, especially now that we are experiencing online classes which needs gadget and good internet connection for a student to enter a class.
John Ray read by the window, leading out to the sea because their shanty had no electricity. His father catches fish from the surrounding waters of Manila Bay, so the family has never been able to afford a cell phone, which would have been useful in an online class.
Wala talagang cellphone. Kahit anong gawin ko wala mang kaming magawang parang kasi konti lang huli ng asawa ko.
Insufficiency of infrastructure is also one of the reasons why lack of education exists, because overcrowding is a severe issue in many institutions. One of the causes of overcrowding in schools is a lack of sufficient facilities, particularly in classrooms which are provided by the government. As a researcher, I gathered some evidences that overcrowding can have a negative influence on learning, particularly in low-income institutions. With the classroom shortages, the Philippine school system can expect it to perform well. The emphasis on student excellence jeopardizes equity.
The root cause of poverty is lack of education. If you can't read or do basic math, if you cannot show up for work and apply yourself, you will not have a job. You will be poor, and actions may dent poverty, but the war in poverty is 50 years old. The gains are few. The clear path forward is to realize that poor children can't be taught is wrong, and to give our city's children a good academic, society, behavioral, and physical education right now. We citizens can take the right action. Good teaching is hard work. Teaching children mired in poverty is even harder. To address the needs of these children requires a completely different structure or business model. Putting bandage in the current broken system is not working.
There is a global education crisis, notably in South Africa, Angola, Gambia, and other underdeveloped countries. Governments have a critical part in giving a high quality of education. Whatever we learn from our parents and instructors stay with us throughout our lives and is passed on to the next generation. The goal and rewards of effective education are not limited to personal gains, but also assess other members of the family, community, and country. Parts of society have diverse meanings, needs, and views of education. But it's true, meaning and value never change. A proper education enables us all to be self-sufficient in society and to overcome the challenges of poverty. But many individuals, particularly teenagers, work passionately rather than for education because they want to work to make money since their parents cannot afford to send their children to school, so that they enjoy reading and learning.
As a future educators, we believe that we should all receive adequate education while realizing its true value and usefulness totally. We are calling the world leaders to put attention and actions in aiding the lack of education and to realize the value of it among the children all over the world. Our goal in obtaining education should be to assist other needy members in society in overcoming their shortcomings and misconceptions. As Pope Francis declared that education, as we know, is meant to be transformative. To educate is always an act of hope, one that calls for cooperation in turning a barren and paralyzing indifference into another way of thinking that recognizes our interdependence. The world leaders should develop more educational infrastructure, support programs that focuses on education progress so that students will persuade to go to school and also to reduce the case of out-of-school youth.